December 16, 1944. At about 6:30 a.m., General George S. Patton, age 57, leaned over the command map table in Verdun, his eyes scanning the latest intelligence reports. Snow fell in thick, heavy flakes outside, blanketing the narrow roads and slowing every Allied movement. His staff had reviewed the German troop positions repeatedly, but many questioned the accuracy of these assessments. Patton didn't. Decades of armored warfare had taught him to read not just numbers, but patterns, movements, hesitations, and gaps in the enemy line. Yet, this moment defied conventional wisdom. His Third Army was stretched thin, with tanks and supply trucks moving along treacherous icy roads. The weather was hostile. Command in London and at SHAEF doubted a rapid maneuver could succeed, labeling it risky, almost reckless. For 48 hours, German forces had pressed the Ardennes, stalling Allied advances and inflicting steady operational losses. Every hour the front remained frozen meant higher costs, slower reinforcements, and more uncertainty for troops trapped at Bastogne. Patton didn't hesitate. He knew the window for action was closing. If someone didn't act decisively now, the opportunity could vanish. With a precise, quiet resolve, he issued the orders that would soon force a response and set the stage for a clash of strategy between two of the war's greatest generals, Patton and Montgomery. Two brilliant generals, two opposing approaches to war. Patton thrived on aggressive, fast-moving armored thrusts, exploiting speed and surprise to strike where enemies least expected. Montgomery, by contrast, favored methodical, attrition-based advances, carefully consolidating every mile before pushing forward. Their differences were more than philosophy, they shaped entire campaigns. Patton's Third Army moved quickly, tanks and trucks racing across icy roads designed for speed, pushing men and machines to the limit. Montgomery's forces relied on slower, heavily fortified supply lines, emphasizing safety over audacity. The contrast was stark, and the debate over who was right would rage among commanders and historians for decades. Even Patton's own superiors raised doubts. London and SHAEF questioned whether such a rapid maneuver could succeed, calling it reckless. Some whispered that the Third Army would bog down, trapped in the Ardennes frozen forests, crushed by attrition before reaching their objective. But Patton had decades of armored warfare experience, and hesitation wasn't in his nature. He knew bold moves often carried the highest reward. He carried it anyway. The Ardennes forest stretched out like a frozen maze. Its dense trees and narrow winding roads created a natural chokehold for any advancing army. Snow blanketed the terrain. Visibility was limited to a few hundred meters, and the bitter winter wind slowed every movement. For the Allies, these conditions were far from ideal. Tanks struggled along icy paths, supply convoys slipped off roads, and reconnaissance became a matter of chance as German patrols lurked behind every ridge. Standard Allied tactics honed for open-field battles were failing. Defensive lines had been entrenched for months. Artillery dominated open spaces, and any frontal assault carried a high operational cost. Previous attempts to dislodge the German advance had stalled completely, leaving Bastogne surrounded and supply lines at risk. Every day of delay increased pressure both on troops at the front and on commanders trying to coordinate reinforcements. Time was not on the Allies' side. For 72 hours, German forces had exploited surprise, seizing key junctions and gaining a strategic advantage. Objectives: relief of Bastogne, stabilization of the Ardennes front, and prevention of a breakthrough toward the Meuse, remained unmet. Operational pressure intensified with each passing hour. Bastogne's defenders were isolated, under-equipped, and under constant threat. A failure to act decisively could allow the Germans to exploit momentum, potentially unraveling months of preparation across the entire Western Front. Every calculation mattered. Which roads could bear tanks, which routes were mined or blocked, and how fast reinforcements could reach the surrounded town. In this high-stakes environment, commanders faced a choice. Follow cautious doctrine or push audaciously, risking exposure for a chance to break the stalemate. The clock was ticking, and the Ardennes would not wait. At 7:15, Patton pored over battlefield reports, noticing heavy German troop clustering near Bastogne, a sign many commanders had missed or dismissed. Snow-laden roads and freezing temperatures slowed every advance, and communication delays turned every hour into uncertainty. Patton faced a stark choice: risk a rapid armored advance or wait for reinforcements that might never arrive in time. Then, with deliberate precision, he ordered combat-ready divisions to move under cover, timing every maneuver as if racing a disappearing clock. As Patton's armored columns advanced, the Germans quickly adjusted, repositioning artillery and deploying defensive units along the narrow Ardennes roads. Snow and ice amplified every challenge, creating bottlenecks that slowed tanks and supply trucks alike. By 10:30, scouts reported critical congestion on key routes. Delay could cost hours or more. Patton didn't hesitate. He recalibrated on the fly, redirecting tanks onto secondary roads, staggering supply convoys, and coordinating armored infantry movements with clockwork precision. Every 4 to 6 hours, new intelligence came in. German units shifting positions, snipers ambushing from tree lines, artillery preparing to fire. Each time, Patton adjusted, keeping momentum alive while minimizing exposure. By 1400 hours, the roads were partially cleared, and initial contact with encircled Bastogne forces was made. Yet this was only the first ripple in a larger high-stakes chess match. Every adaptation provoked a counter, and every counter demanded another bold decision. By mid-afternoon, the situation intensified. German counterattacks on the flanks and increased air reconnaissance turned every movement into a calculated risk. Patton faced mounting indirect pressure. Montgomery's slower progress created coordination tension, forcing rapid adjustments across the Ardennes. Supplies were strained, fuel dwindled, and the shortening daylight compressed every operation. Each decision grew more critical. Errors now carried far higher operational costs. Patton's command window was shrinking. One wrong move could stall the relief of Bastogne entirely. Every maneuver became a high-stakes gamble in a frozen forest where timing, speed, and audacity were the only paths forward. By 2200 hours, Patton's advance faced its most daunting challenge yet. German armored units were dug into choke points along narrow Ardennes roads, their mobility constrained by ice and snow, forcing Patton's teams into close, risky maneuvers. Winter weather reduced visibility and slowed every column. Infantry on both sides were showing signs of fatigue and attrition as the brutal cold and relentless pressure took their toll. To make matters worse, Patton received conflicting reports suggesting fresh German reinforcements were moving to block his path. Was this a real threat or intentional misdirection designed to slow him down? Every minute spent verifying intelligence meant losing momentum. With tanks, fuel, and ammunition nearing critical thresholds, Patton faced a stark choice. Push forward at the risk of overextension, or consolidate and lose the narrow window of opportunity. If this push failed, the encirclement of Bastogne could become permanent, and the Third Army's gamble might collapse under its own weight. Patton ordered a coordinated armored thrust along multiple axes, deliberately bypassing the strongest German resistance to maintain momentum. Tanks, infantry, and supply units moved in precise synchrony, each maneuver timed to the minute. After 72 hours of planning, adjustment, and rapid movement, Bastogne's encirclement was partially relieved. This opened corridors for Allied forces to consolidate positions and reinforce the town. German defenses were disrupted but not destroyed, leaving the front stabilized yet still contested. The focus remained on calculated movements, timing, and resource management rather than triumph or celebration. Following the relief of Bastogne, SHAEF formally reviewed Patton's rapid maneuver. Command recognized the audacity and precision of his decisions, acknowledging that his approach had shifted the operational balance during the Battle of the Bulge. While some superiors initially questioned the risk, the outcome demonstrated that speed, adaptability, and decisive leadership could achieve results where conventional, cautious tactics might fail. Procedural changes followed. Rapid armored redeployment, previously considered risky, was formally incorporated into Allied operational doctrine. Patton's methods also shaped military education. Armored warfare courses at post-war military schools emphasized timing, operational audacity, and adaptive planning drawn directly from Bastogne. His approach influenced NATO doctrines in Europe, providing a blueprint for mobile operations in both defensive and offensive contexts. The clash at Bastogne left a lasting debate. Armored mobility versus attrition-focused approaches shaped military doctrine for decades. Patton's Third Army became synonymous with speed, adaptability, and decisive action. While Montgomery's methodical planning earned praise for meticulous control, this episode highlights the costs and benefits of audacity versus caution. Drop a comment below. In the frozen forests of 1944, was Patton's risk-calculated genius, or did he just get lucky? Today, lessons from Bastogne inform both military training and strategic thinking. The moment remains a quiet testament to leadership, not drama, but measured, enduring insight into decision-making in extreme circumstances. Subscribe to follow future archives uncovering more pivotal moments and untold stories from World War II.